Hey, I hope someone will see this. It's 2:57 a.m. as I write this and I just can't take it anymore. My wife keeps talking down on me and it's eating me up. For context, I, 43 and my wife, 39 have been married for 12 years. It has been a fun ride, but now it seems like the park is shutting down and the Ferris wheel is the first thing the bringing down. This might get long. I hope this place isn't like X where there's a limit to how many words you can write. I work in construction, always have. I came from a humble background. Even though I and my two siblings went to government schools, we still couldn't afford to finish school. Aged just 16, I dropped out to find a job so that both my younger siblings could be able to afford it even if it was a community college. Due to my low-level education, I was only able to get menial duties. That was until I got a job in construction working under a friend of my late father's, may his soul rest in peace. I worked this job, juggling it with some other little chores that paid me. At some point I was working 4 jobs and sleeping only 3 hours a day. How I didn't break down, I never knew. I still don't know. My younger siblings were twins, both currently 40, and they were just 2 years behind me academically then. My late dad, who was already bedridden, died when the twins were in their sophomore year in uni. So my mother and I shouldered the responsibility of funding their schooling. See, I never wanted any of them to have any student debt in their name. That was why I worked as hard as I did. It didn't take much for them to both graduate as they were both smart kids. The boy, John, got a job as a doctor and the girl, Antoinette, quickly got a job in a huge law firm. On my 26th birthday, I was gifted a house by the twins. It was one of the best days in my existence. I thought to myself, phew. I can finally rest. I remember not working throughout that week as I wanted to enjoy the house my siblings bought me. It was during this week of rest I met my soulmate. I had gone into a Starbucks close to the Cleveland State University when I saw her. A beautiful lady sitting on her own, studying.
Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering and thank you so much if you subscribed.
She was glancing at a book on building engineering and was shaking her head and murmuring to herself. I guess she might have been having problems with it, so I decided to peek. When I peeped over her shoulder at what she was doing, I found that she was doing some sort of exercise that had to do with interpretation of building plan drawings. Well, it was the sort of thing I had spent years doing. I got carried away while taking a peek at her work. I thank God I wasn't born in this new generation, as that kind of thing might have been labeled as a creepy or something. While I was cross-checking her work, I find it quite cute, the mistakes she made in her interpretations, how she outswung an in-swing door, or where they put a slide window when the plans suggested the windows should have doors. Hey, Snoop Dogg. What are you snooping at? She said, calling my attention as she waved her hand in my face. I looked at her and... Lord have mercy, I knew she was beautiful, but wow. I hastily snapped out of my fairy tale imagination and responded, oh, me? Nothing. It's just that I'm looking at you trying so hard to interpret this bit you're making a few mistakes. Oh really? She asked. How would you know? She added. I took a seat in front of hers and stretched out my left hand to her. Feel, I said. She looked at me for a few before reluctantly running her hands across mine. You work in construction? She asked. I nodded. Then I grabbed a plan and motioned her to come close so I could explain further. After a few lessons and a ton of jokes, we were done with her stuff. This has been a very good not first date, I said. Can I get your contacts so we could have a date that doesn't need this many books around? I added. It was a shot in the dark, but I had to. She obliged, and days later we had other dates. Soon we became inseparable. She would come over to sites where I worked and would chit-chat with me during my breaks. Soon enough, everyone I worked with got familiar with her. They all loved her. Sometimes she came with food. She was a very good chef and she made such delicious meals. Months later, she graduated from uni. It wasn't long after that, we decided she would move in with me. Some people would have said a thing or two about it being rushed, but I didn't think it was. It was perfect. She encouraged me to go back to school, stating that she didn't mind carrying the load of providing for both of us. I told the twins about her and my decision to go back to school. They both encouraged and chipped in enough money for me to enroll in schools. After talking to people, I decided to go to school part-time. 3 years later, I finally graduated uni also. I decided to study civil engineering. That day went straight to the top 5 best days of my life. At the ceremony, in front of her friends, family and mine also, I asked her to marry me. At this time I was already pushing 30. With the help of my siblings, I prepared all the financial aspects of being married. John, the doctor, helps us to secure the best health insurance plans for us and the kids we might have on the way. My sister, on the other hand, helps with legal matters. At the request of Marie Angela and I, she drew up a prenup. She also helped us select an insurance company, which her firm defends, one that helps in a lot of things. 2 years later, we got married. I, 31 and she is 27. It wasn't a big wedding, though I still think it was. 100 people was a lot. Before then I didn't even know I knew 100 people. The wedding was a success and the night after felt heavenly. Sorry if I haven't started to explain my predicament, I just think a bigger picture is needed. Anyway, during our years of being together, I have had a couple work-related injuries. Some serious, leaving with crutches and wheelchairs, others just minor things. This was where I was very happy with John and the health insurance plan he helped me with. I had been out of the hospital a number of times, but I never got hit with the truckloads of healthcare bills. Now, we have 3 children, in the same format as me and my siblings. A male first child and a boy and girl twin. The boy, Prince, now 10, is a very bright kid. He's so smart I think he inherited it from his mum. The twins, Emmanuel and Emanuela, are both 3. 2 years ago, I got involved in another work accident. I had fallen off an overhead bridge I was inspecting as the chief engineer. It was bad, probably the worst one yet. I was hospitalized for months. Luckily, during my period at the hospital, young Emma, as I fondly called her, worked remotely. She spent most of her time by my side in the hospital. She brings her laptop to the hospital. She uses my legs as her desk. To be honest, I couldn't even feel anything. I was happy having her around. She was the only bit of happiness I had in those long periods. I spent 3 months in the hospital before I got discharged. The doctor told my wife to bring me in for physiotherapy once a week. I was still crippled. Although at this point, I could feel my legs, I couldn't move them. I had rented out the house my siblings bought for me, and was making close to $2,000 a month from rent. That wasn't enough though. My wife, due to now working remotely, had had her salary slashed. This was something she agreed to because she wanted to be around me. We started a mortgage plan for a bungalow apartment, which was wheelchair accessible. The house was previously owned by a war veteran who lost his legs in Nam. The house was nice. The vet had some of his stuff still in the house. His medals were still there. There also were a couple of hand-made chairs and hand-carved toys, plus the tools used for carving and a handbook on making such crafts. I spent most of my days in what I started to call the handy house. To be honest, it felt good, the peace and quiet in there and being able to make myself useful. I carved designs and built our dinner table and chairs. With the help of former coworkers, I was able to add a fireplace to the house. I know I was probably going through a midlife crisis caused by me by the accident. I just knew I had to be useful somehow. Obviously, I couldn't work at all for 2 years. I couldn't even stand up for 30 minutes straight, much less work, much less going back to the high-risk job I have been working since I was 19. Due to me being incapacitated, money became tight for us. My wife's job no longer paid well. I wasn't even doing anything and we had 3 other mouths to feed. My wife started to complain, and rightfully so, 'cause something had to be done and it had to be done quickly. She talked to me about taking up smaller scale construction gigs that doesn't need me to move a muscle, as I was in charge and had my own team. I tried reasoning with her, telling her that it wasn't as easy as it seemed, that I had to move around when on duty, that I'm not one of those who only bark orders, that I love to also get my hands dirty. That I couldn't until I could walk again. She was understanding at first, but as time went on, I guess the burden of shouldering the cost of our livelihood started to weigh on her. She started to raise her voice at me. But for a few reasons, I would have thought she was only with me because of the money. She was with me when there wasn't much, and she helped me get a degree, which helped me get jobs that paid more. If not for her, I probably would still be living small and earning chicken feed. She helped me grow, and she wasn't like one of those girls who only watched from the stands. She played a huge role in my growth as a man. I tried my best to get back to normal, put in every effort at the physio, to be able to stand on my own even, it all seemed futile. I decided, if I couldn't work, I might as well become a good house husband for now. I did everything in the house. Since all the rooms were wheelchair accessible, I didn't have any problems cleaning, mopping, washing, cooking and doing other things. I mentioned earlier that my wife is a good cook. Well, I'm a better one. The kids loved having me around. We would play whenever they came home from school. I'd carry the twins while Prince would push the chair around the compound. It was all fun with the kids, MA though, not so much. Understandably so. The complaints became worse with each month. This time it had branched out of just being about money. Now it was about everything. The food's not salted enough. You spend so much time in the handy house. You're not a kid anymore. Sure, you missed out on playing as a kid because you had to raise your siblings. Well listen, it's time to raise your own kids. This is not time to make up for the fun you missed out on. Oh, and let's not forget, the worst of them all. The bedroom. The accident made me immobile. I couldn't feel anything below the belt. I do get hard sometimes, but I don't feel anything. This really hurt our sex life. I can't blame her for being angry, pissed, frustrated or all of the above because honestly, I felt so too. Still feel so even when I write this. Honestly, I was glad she was still talking about it, the lack of sex that is. Reason being that I figured if she stopped talking, it means she's found alternatives I knew I won't be very pleased with. Just last week, things took a dreadful turn. Whilst MA was in the study, working at noon when my kids came back from school, I wanted to do a little daddy's stuff. I had heard my Emmanuel ask his mom last night, "Mummy, why doesn't daddy throw me up like you normally do?" It was a genuine question he asked, born from the need to know. I hurt hearing that. I felt like my wife was out dating me. So, I thought I'd do so today. As the twins ran to greet me, I caught Ella and threw her in the air, twice. Obviously Emmanuel wanted to have his turn so I did the same, caught him the first time and threw him again. This time he went forward. I didn't even have any idea why he moved forward. I wasn't able to catch him. He fell face first to the floor. His cries drew the attention of my wife and she came running out. This time Ella had joined the crying. I could only sit on the chair looking at them. I couldn't reach for my son who was on the floor, for fear of falling on him and making things worse. My wife picked him up, turning his face to try and console him. Though was bleeding from the nose. I got even more devastated. My wife inquired what happened and my oldest son told her everything. The glare was absolutely frightening. She had the look of a hungry bald eagle in her eyes. She dialed 911. The ambulance pulled up in a minute and they were rushed to the I got there 30 minutes later. Rolling around the hospital lobby looking at the nurses begging for anyone to pay any attention to me. Honestly, it was a busy day that day. It was as though everyone in the vicinity were either sick or injured. Moments later, young MA walked out of a room visible from where I stood, sat. I rolled over to her and tapped her by the waist, as that was as I could reach because I was sitting. The anger that had already left her eyes returned. "Get the fuck out of here, you useless piece of shit," she said. I was a little taken aback, but I stayed. I followed her into the room, where I saw my son lying on the bed with a bandage around his head. He was sleeping. "How is he?" I asked my wife. She didn't respond. I asked again and she kept mute again. I asked the third time, she snapped at me again, "YTF are you here? You've successfully ruined your life, sitting on your ass for 2 years. Do you want to ruin my son's?" I was saddened. I didn't know whether to be offensive or defensive about it. I just sat where I was, looking her in the eyes. I felt my eyes start to water. Are you going to cry now? She went again. Oh, hey, everybody, for a limited time only, you get to watch a grown man cry. Gather around, she shouted, as she raised her hands, beckoning passers-by to walk in. I buried my head in my hand. I have to solve this, but to be honest, I don't know how to. We argued for a while. I tried to calm her down and explain that things aren't all that bad, that Emma is alive and well, that we didn't need to worry about hospital bills, as she kept asking questions like, what if he had died? What money do we even use to pay for the hospital? It got so loud in the ward that my brother and another doctor had to come over and boot us both out themselves. You guys are going to raise his chances of getting a migraine if you keep making this much noise, the doctor said. See, you've woken up a few of our patients in comas, though that may be good, it shows just how loud you guys are, my brother added, trying to lighten us up. All the way home, I got scolded at. Every wrongdoing of mine all through the relationship was laid on the table. To me, she had sort of become this heartless being, and I was unhappy with myself because I felt this was all my fault. I wish I had never had that exercise. As she continued to scold me, something in me switched up. I was done with the insults and the subtle hating. I shouted in the car. Fuck. All you do now is nag me. Ever since the accident, it's as though I am nothing but a C at #K to ride onto you. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have said all that. After that, the rest of the ride was quiet. I could hear my heartbeat. She said nothing, and so did I. I think she was shocked that I raised my voice. In our 12 years married and 17 years together, I've raised my voice at her but once, that day in the car. The kids remained at the hospital because my brother, their uncle, worked there. When we got in the house, Emma went straight to our bedroom. She started to pack her stuff. She took enough clothes to last almost a month. She also packed a few of the kids' clothing with her, their uniforms, books, toys, and some other things. She left the room. It's been a week now and I haven't heard from them. Yesterday evening I got an email. The mail contained a list for my kids' schooling, all amounting to $186,000. I knew that was how much it cost, so it's not like I was blindsided by it. Also, there was a note which read, I need to know we'll be able to work this out and that you'll do your best to get back on your feet, both literally and figuratively speaking. Love, not so young M.A. I held it and stayed by the door for hours. I think I've fucked up. I need help, advice, and suggestions. I don't know what I need, I just know I need it. That's why I am here, am I wrong? How should I have handled it better? How do I get my legs back? Is there something psychological about it? I have a lot of questions. I'll be in the DMs checking out the comments. Thanks in advance. Update. For those who don't know, this post is in response to the post where I asked for help with my relationship. I have had conversations with the people who had given reasonable advice and suggestions. I was referred to a therapist and advised to seek couples counseling. Anyway, I appreciate the help that has come my way. Some people even offered to help me with cash, which I turned down cause 1. I don't accept money from strangers, 2. I didn't say I had nothing, just that I didn't have enough to take care of 3. Thanks for listening and make sure to press that subscribe button for more stories like this. Have a great rest of your day or night.